Welcome back. Jackie Young showed up and showed out, reminded people why she was the number one draft pick. Las Vegas, this was a very tense game because of the background storyline. But Jackie Young said, never mind all that. Let me do what I need to do to make sure I can elevate the Aces over the Sparks. They go 2-0 now without their coach, Becky Hammon, and she is coming back on Saturday for her first game. It's going to be ring night in Vegas. But before we get into that, let's introduce our guest, Dawn Montgomery. Thank you for joining us on Ladies First Fridays. Always excited to have a
awesome.
WNBA analyst in the house.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
For sure. So, Dawn, let's just go ahead and get into this Sparks Aces game. There was tons of discussion around this game because of the situation between Dearica Hamby and the Las Vegas Aces, namely Becky Hammon. It was interesting because this is the first of two matchups in the next 3 days between the two teams. And Becky Hammon was not coaching, but she will be back on Saturday. Now, interestingly enough, Nneka Ogwumike was sick and did not play the game. And so Dearica Hamby started in her place, and she played phenomenally. But the Aces came out on top. Watching that game, what do you think of it?
I enjoyed it, actually. I mean, I know that everything that's happening behind the scenes is very negative, and we need to get to the bottom of that so that we can move on and enjoy this season. But I think it's very promising when you see certain star players not necessarily be ready to step up or perform, but you start seeing the younger players like really take over. And I think that just proves to like the fans that are watching, like, there's more than one person to watch in this league. There's more than one storyline that's happening in this league. In the midst of turmoil, I mean, look at the NFL. There's always something going on in the NFL every single day. And people still are watching. So we still need people to support in some form of fashion as we get to the bottom of what happened there.
For sure. And I think, too, when you mentioned the younger players, stepping up, Jackie Young has always been a really formidable player, particularly for the Aces, but she hasn't been the star. And dropping 30 points when you've got Asia Wilson, Candace Parker, Kelsey Plum, Chelsea Gray, you name it, all around you. She really shined yesterday. And kind of thinking about this whole WNBA vets versus rookies conversation, we're going to have to wrap that up. She showed she's a vet now. The way that she came out, she showed she was a vet.
Right. And I keep telling people, like, even for some of the players that we may not see active, consistently where they're coming off of the bench, I love me a bench player that's going to show up and just drop 30 at the drop of like a game, like literally like, okay, I'm here, And I think that we need that type of energy through this particular league, just because like that's one of the things that most people are crying out and saying, well, they're not so competitive, or they don't do this, they don't do that. Oh no, baby. We've got players that are willing to step up and give you a show if you're willing to watch it.
If you're willing to watch it. Yeah. Because I think there was so much anticipation, leading up to that game. And I think, Zena, you hit that right on the head. And let's remember this 27th season of the WNBA, something we were all excited about were these super teams, the Las Vegas Aces being one. You named off all those stars, but being able to live up to the expectation. Coaches gone 2 games, obviously probably some bad blood in the locker room, about to get those rings. And, New York, I think they still have some stuff to prove, obviously still having to build that chemistry, but Las Vegas has us excited. There's a reason why this team has that beautiful new practice facility, by the way. Shout out to Las Vegas for also setting the standard. And I feel like, to your point, Dawn, this team is really starting to show what the WNBA can be. As you said, if people are willing to watch, invest in women's sports, support women's sports, and watch these collegiate stars that are now coming in to this league and this game, and hopefully potentially future have some expansion.
Right. And I think that's kind of why Front Office Sports shouts out to the writers, AJ Perez and Andrew Cohen, who wrote that piece on talking to certain sources throughout the league and outside of the league who didn't want to be named, but they told the truth. Like, they literally were very honest in saying, like, there are some teams that are willing to invest in or ownership that's willing to invest in their teams and show the future of this league. But I think the biggest thing about this is in the midst of, while going through this process and seeing that Vegas seems to be, our standard right now, we're gonna have some issues. It's just like every relationship. Everything is not always hunky-dory. Everything's not always great and coasting. There's always going to be something. But what that shows you is as you grow, you have to improve. So the league has to make some changes in order to really be players first and make sure that our players feel safe and, comfortable in playing this game.
And that's the difficult balance, right? Is wanting the league to make the changes that it needs to make, but also having the owners giving that freedom to be able to make those changes, right? Between Brooklyn, Brooklyn Sports Entertainment, Joe Tsai, and what he's trying to do with the New York Liberty and his team, as well as the Las Vegas Aces, you're seeing investors or owners that want to invest in their teams, but because of parity and making sure that everything is equitable, sometimes their hands are a little bit tied behind their backs. And so just making sure that the league provides a space in which they can do that is also really important.
Mm-hmm. And then to just make sure that they're listening to Black women, because if we're going to be 100, I've said this consistently about this league, where we have a lot of people that don't look like us in these front offices in this particular league as well. And on ownership or are able to make these decisions, we really need them to listen to us. Like, we're the ones out there playing the sport. We're the fans who are putting money into the sport. We're the media members who are pushing, certain narratives, as well as like making things go viral on our timelines every single day that helps this league get more visibility. You need to listen to us. Right. And that possibly would also mean that they need to start hiring some of us in some of these spaces, or bringing us to the table to where they can hear some solution-based things that they can kind of create and do in the meantime, while trying to figure out something more long-term that benefits the future of this league.
That's something that most people don't know about the fan base. It's so great. A lot of people don't realize that most of the fan base for the WNBA, particularly up until recently, are older and white. And when I say older, I mean significantly older. These are retirees that are enjoying spending their extra income on season tickets. And there needs to be a shift. And you're seeing WNBA teams try to have those cultural nights and having those community-oriented nights, trying to get groups out and things of that sort. But I agree with you. Having people that are of the culture and also of the demographic of the teams be the ones being the ones with the megaphone to say what we need to work on, I think is really, really important. I want to make sure we get into the games too, because this season has been a lot of excitement, and between the super teams, but then people showing that they should have been also named super teams, right? Some of the teams that were left off the list showed up and have played incredibly well. What were your big surprises in terms of performance in the first week of the WNBA?
I'm going to be honest. I think I don't really have any big surprises. So I'm just going to, and that's just because I watched this. I'm a fan. I'm here for it. I think that's the type of energy that we need to have when we are having these conversations of who's on this list, who's not on this list, because I think that's going to drive the competition. I think that's going to encourage fan bases to really, kind of go at it, on the hashtag WNBA Twitter, because I don't know if y'all seen how ignorant and insane they can be, but they can really go at it. But we need the sport itself to have that type of energy competitively on the court while we're trying to grow it. You get what I'm saying? It's 27 years in this thing. We should be talking about how it should be doing expansion or how it should be growing in a certain light. It should have been doing this maybe 10 years ago. Like I needed to catch up. So I think that's where I'm at, where it's like, I want us to make sure that, the people who do feel slighted, yes, ball out, show out, do what you do. And I think that's going to encourage other sports fans who are looking for something once the NBA finals is done, once, training is going into effect for the NFL teams and things like that. They're going to be looking for something to watch. The WNBA is here.
Right. What are your thoughts on this conversation around the growth of the league and having these new players that do have big fan bases that are trying to follow them into the WNBA, coming from college, going into the league, and then not making the team? Of course, this whole Alexis Morris situation was interesting because it did create a conversation, right? She has now since apologized. Alexis, we love you. we got you. We understand that you want a spot, but you have to work for it. I'm curious what your thoughts are on roster expansion versus team expansion, and just how do you allow the team to grow, the league to grow, when you're talking about this veterans, rookies, and no spots available?
Well, I mean, we need both. We need the roster expansion and team expansion. Like that just has to happen. They need to figure that out like this season. Like we need to know that they're going to move forward and that we're not going to have to deal with these type of, one-off conversations on the side with this. I feel like, someone for like Alexis herself coming into the league, like, baby, you can't come in and be ready to kind of go off on everybody and you ain't earned your spot yet. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, like I hate to be that auntie where it's like, baby girl, pause. but it's also another thing that I consistently talk about across all sports league, where rookies, newer players, or collegiate players coming into that want to go professional, they need to have media training. Like, baby, you need to know that there are certain things that you don't need to push the button on quite yet until you are well versed on what's happening in the league and how business goes every single day. You would be surprised. Like, I think there was a Major League Baseball player just recently who went viral for a thread where he talked about how he was a top draft pick in the MLB, and then how everything just flipped on him within 48 hours. Like, it was business. It was this. You got to meet veterans. You got to do this. You got to do that. And to me, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, who are the players who are really reaching out and talking to these young women and really inviting them into the locker room and saying, hey, this is how things go. It's not from a standpoint of like, we're not going to change, the culture around here, or we're not going to adjust for you. But in a sense of like, this is how we're going to try to incorporate you. And you need to be open to being a part of that, because you also have to remember, she's coming from a different type of culture where they just built what they built, became national champions. You get what I'm saying? And they did things their way. Baby, that's not how that works in this league. And most teams aren't going to be open to that. So if we're just going to be honest, we need the roster expansion. We need the team expansion. And I think we need sisterhood expansion is what I'm going to call it, because I really need them to reach out to these young girls and say, hey, I know you might be coming for my spot, and I can appreciate the competition, but I want to make sure that you understand your place. And it's not from a bullying type of standpoint, or I'm bigger than you, I've been here longer than you. It's more so like, I'm going to bring you in. I'm going to show you how this goes. And if it doesn't work out, then it's okay. We can go from there. And that's just how I feel about it.
Well, sisterhood is exactly right in terms of what this league needs, especially for growth and expansion. And sisterhood is exactly why we have Ladies First Fridays. Dawn, thank you for coming and educating us.
Thanks for joining us.
Shout out, please. Can I do a quick shout out?
Yeah.
Shout out to my son who's graduating on Sunday. My son is graduating from high school, and I'm so proud of him. He's going into the Air Force. So I just want to give a shout out to Sean B. Thanks, ladies.
That's perfect.
We love to see
Memorial Day.
So special.
We love to see it. Congratulations to him.
Have fun with that. Thanks, Don.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.